Why eels are fascinating creatures. Take 1. To begin, let's clarify a few things. Firstly, eels are in fact fish. This is a scientific fact. And secondly, the following words are loosely based around some science, but by no means scientific. Consider it an interpretive dance in and around the topic of these atypical and fascinating creatures, known collectively as eels. Something to whet the appetite, to hopefully learn a little. Something that may even help you break the ice during an awkward silence at your next work barbecue. Hey, did you know that eels are pretty fascinating creatures? Important critters. Slimy, elusive, and a bit scary looking. These are often the first descriptors that come to mind when considering the eel. They often make us feel a little uneasy. They are cryptic and creepy, mysteriously hiding in the shadows. But the eel has been held in high regard by humans for millennia. Eaten as a delicacy by Romans, revered as semi-sacred by Egyptians, mythologically, culturally, and ecologically venerated by Maori, as well as mystifying thinkers from Aristotle and Sigmund Freud to modern-day scientists. Mysterious lovemaking. Over 2,300 years ago, one highly acclaimed Aristotle dissected some eels and could not find any gonads, no testes or ovaries. And he concluded that eels did not reproduce sexually, but in fact emerged spontaneously from mud, slime, or rotting vegetation. As one of the great-great-grandfathers of science, we can forgive old Aristotle for this erroneous hypothesis. Not only because, well, this was rather a long time ago, but more significantly, still to this day, how exactly eels reproduce remains a scientific mystery. Bermuda Triangle Love Fest. Sure, we know more now, like that all eels begin their lives as larvae and then metamorphose a number of times, depending on the species. More on that later. The biggest breakthrough regarding eel lovemaking knowledge came around the start of the 20th century, when Danish marine biologist Ernst Johannes Schmidt conducted a number of eel larvae searching expeditions. After almost 20 years of searching, Ernie Joe finally tracked them to their spawning ground of the Sargasso Sea, which just so happens to be the approximate location of the mythical Bermuda Triangle. Bound between Florida, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda, this area of the North Atlantic played host to many plane and boat disappearances, not to mention plenty of delectable urban legends and conspiracy theories. Coincidence? Maybe. Interesting? Most definitely. Maybe all those planes and boats simply did not have tickets to the Bermuda Triangle Eel Love Fest. Or is it magnets? I digress. Massive magnetic metamorphosing migrations. Yes, there are a plethora of different types of eel. The famous, scary, double-jawed moray eel has 200 different subspecies. This coral reef creeper was the inspiration for the original 1979 Alien film. You know, the nightmare-inducing, saliva dripping off the second set of teeth while threatening a badass Sigourney Weaver alien? Yeah, that eel, that alien. Anyway, in total there are over 800 different species of eel, and not all of them breed in the Sargasso Sea. But both the very prevalent North American and the European eel are born, and in fact die, near the Bermuda Triangle. And this journey is one of epic proportions. Let's dive in. After being born, these eels float in the ocean's salty currents for up to a year as larvae, seemingly drifting aimlessly thousands of kilometers. Once they are washed up near a continental shelf that works for them, their body changes over 6 to 12 months. They metamorphose into glass eels. Short sidebar here. Can we all just take a moment to appreciate the word and concept of metamorphosis? Lovely to say, lovely to think about. Anyway, At this point, the glass eel begins actual proper swimming, rather than floating, towards and then into the river mouth of their choice. Could be the Thames, could be the Mississippi River. We going freshwater, baby. And after only a few weeks, metamorphosis, there's that word. Metamorphosis number 2 begins. The juvenile eels are now known as elvers, and these little 5 to 10 centimeter long badasses swim up rivers and streams, sometimes thousands of kilometers inland. Often, they even scurry short distances across land to find that ideal eel habitat. Once a nice wee spot has been discovered, something with a slow current and some solid hiding places, our eels will have reached their next stage of metamorphosis, turning into yellow eels. After about 5 to 25 years of being cryptic, elusive, nocturnal, and mysterious, they transform a final and 4th time into silver eels. This marks the beginning of the last behemoth voyage for our eels, as if an internal voice tells them to return from whence you came. They swim tens, hundreds, or thousands of kilometers downriver, and sometimes even scurry a few meters across land. Transitioning from fresh back to saltwater is no problem for the silver veteran, and more astounding, navigating across the huge, deep, dark expanse of the Atlantic Ocean back to the Sargasso Sea, whether from North America or Europe, is also easy peasy lemon squeezy for our friends, the eels. How do they navigate? Well, some very smart and industrious scientists have proposed that these eels can sense the Earth's magnetic field, which is apparently called magnetoreception. There's your new word for the day. They are able to do this either via tiny magnetic minerals in their cells or through cryptochromes in their retinas, which are blue light photoreceptors sensitive to magnetic-induced chemical... Wait, what? This is getting way too scientific. It could also have something to do with the Bermuda Triangle, or Atlantis, for all that we know. The meaning of life. So, after a lifespan of somewhere in the league of 30 to 50 years, and 2,000-kilometer long, multi-year metamorphosing journeys, the North American and European eel grow some gonads, arrive at the Sargasso Sea, breed, and then die. And that, my friends, is the meaning of life. For them, I guess, for the eels. For humans, it's hard to tell at this point. Intriguingly, the New Zealand and Australian eels undergo a very similar 1,000-kilometer-long journey to their northern hemisphere cousins. Their spawning ground is somewhere in the Pacific Islands, perhaps near Tonga, but no one knows exactly where. Unfortunately, many of the New Zealand eels currently living in the lakes and rivers of particularly the South Island will never be able to breed. This is because their return journey has been blocked by hydroelectric dams that have been built since they first journeyed upstream. They will stay and die in those lakes and rivers, never to breed, and one day there will be no eels left. This tragedy is a different tale entirely. All right, that was quite a lot to digest. So here's some final mega fact nuggets to bust out during your next awkward silence at a work function or kid's birthday party. Some New Zealand longfin eels have lived over 100 years, and particularly those that are now stuck may live much, much longer. Some elvers can swim up large waterfalls and even navigate through dams. Not all eels migrate up rivers. The conga, yes, conga, is one of these marine eels. It can grow up to 3 meters long and weigh roughly 72 kilos. Electric eels are not true eels. They are part of the knifefish family. They can still deliver shocks of up to 600 volts so stay clear of those. All right, that's more than enough for today. I hope you enjoyed and learned a thing or two. And if you want to learn more, read the Book of Eels, a far more detailed, accurate, and eloquent narrative about our friends, the eels. Thank you for your time and listening. And, if you want to represent the eels, buy a t-shirt, or not. That's it. That's all she wrote. Flashmodern.com, baby.